I'm in Kansas City, and for all the stories I've heard, it's almost like this magical, mythical place.
It really is. It really is. I've lived all over the world. Growing up, my father moved around and because of his work. And out of all the places that I've lived, some incredibly wonderful places, Santa Fe is my absolute favorite. And I'm so lucky to be here. You should visit sometime.
I need to. Yeah, I've been through New Mexico, and I've been out west, and I've seen all of those places. I mean, Kansas City just doesn't have like the natural landscape and all of the things that
Yeah.
exist out west. But it's so good to see that there's this parcel of land in this country that has consistently been creative and has consistently brought people so much joy. I've never heard anybody say, "Yeah, not so much Santa Fe."
When
So,
when my son was little, when he was like about 4 years old, he was very verbal. He said, "Mommy, if you had $1 million, where would you live?" And I said, "Right here." And
yeah.
he said, "Right here?" I said, "Yeah, you'll realize someday that right here is a great place."
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. Well, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to peeling back the layers of your world in medicine. And before we get there, there was a seismic thing that happened 4 years ago that undoubtedly affected the way that we all interacted with this planet, and that was COVID. How did you get through the pandemic? Because 4 years ago, we didn't know how long it was going to last, what the ramifications were. And now that we're kind of in this quote unquote, and I'm being very specific about quote unquote post pandemic era, how did you make it through it, and how did it change you?
Okay, it was tough on me. As a doctor, I didn't right from the start. I mean, I have a very powerful bullshit meter that I developed in medical school because I was very innocent when I went to medical school, even though I was 10 years older than all my classmates. I had a real good common sense and critical thinking, and gradually I realized that certain areas that we were learning, not everything, anatomy, physiology, that there was no politics there, but certain areas, I felt we were learning things that were not true. And I didn't feel like the professors were purposely telling us lies. I felt like they had believed the lies and were passing them on to us. And like, for example, in 1980, when I was doing my rotations in the cardiology rotation, I asked the cardiologist why the focus was on pills so much. I mean, why not lifestyle, what people eat and their exercise and so forth? And he actually said that doesn't make a difference. Granted, this was 1980, but still, it was utterly shocking. And he said, they're not going to change, and it's just easier to give pills. And I said, but you don't even talk to them about alternatives and give them a chance to fix their high blood pressure or whatever. And so it was one lie after another, and that part was really hard to cope with. But fast forward, because of my training, I had developed this bullshit meter,
Yeah.
and right from the start, I knew that this was not from nature. This COVID virus was not from nature. I mean, that was obvious. It was to me totally obvious, but I had nobody to talk to. And plus, people, other doctors were really scared of losing their license. And so for me, it was horrible because I'm a very transparent person, and to not be able to tell my patients, don't take this, because I would have lost my license. Then I could become a speaker like so many did and do that. But I love my patients, and I wanted to stay helping them. So I I found various ways to let them know without actually saying don't take the vaccine. And many of them sort of read my code, and because they'd say, well, what are you doing? And so I'd say, well, I'm going to wait and see if these things are dangerous or not. That was one of the codes. to let them know. And but half of them did get vaccinated and half didn't, and approximately. And the ones who did, many of them had very serious consequences from it. Very serious. Some with autoimmune disease, some with strokes, heart attacks. Let's see, a massive shingles outbreak,
Wow.
um, chronic fatigue syndrome, and turbo cancers. Like one of my patients, from the time of diagnosis to death was 5 days. That's unheard of.
Wow.
You ask any oncologist, they never heard of anything like that ever before. And so it was rough for me, and wearing masks and all that stuff, and it just seemed like we were being gaslit, massively gaslit, and I kept wondering, what is the agenda here? Why
Yeah.
why why are they harming us? And is this intentional? Is this what is happening? And what are the motives? Is it power? Is it euthanasia? Is it control, or all of the above, or each group has their own reason for inflicting this on us? So that's my transparent answer to you.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that. You're the health detective, so I would expect no less. And I think all of those are a part of it. I had lots of questions while all this was going on. While I wanted to be compliant with science, I also knew that there was a lot of tomfoolery from the top of our leadership in this country on down. That was, I mean, the thing that always got me was you could wear a mask to the restaurant, sit down, play the part, but the minute that food and drink came out, everything came off and you just went crazy and breathed and right?
The
And then
whole thing was insane.
I know, and then you wipe your mouth, you pay your bill, and you put on your little mask and trot on out all happy. But the whole time, it's like a bunch of jazz musicians walking into a club. They got their masks, they're in, they're unbent, and the minute they come up, they're just blowing that horn out, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, like I think the thing that got me the most when this all began, it felt very Orwellian. It felt David Lynchian. It felt like a Twilight Zone episode. I remember seeing a commercial that was put out that was like showing little graphics, and it was geared towards younger audiences, like, don't shake hands, don't make eye contact, don't stay 6 feet apart. It was everything that was anterior to what we were taught in kindergarten. It was like Looney World. Like, what in the hell happened?
I I said we've all gone insane. And what was shocking to me, this has made me really sad, because I saw some of my patients are extremely intelligent. I have like scientists from the Los Alamos labs. There's some of my patients. I mean, I have the full spectrum, from people who aren't very educated to the extremely educated, from the impoverished to the wealthy. I have a huge range of patients that I see. But what was fascinating to me is some of the smartest, most educated, most intellectual patients, they never even questioned. Whereas some of my less educated patients, who didn't rely on, all this fake science, they were told, but relied on their sort of animal-like instincts, they knew right away they weren't going to go along with this. And I
Yeah.
thought, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it's wild.
So,
The whole thing's wild. Um, so you have a practice in Santa Fe, and I'm curious if you were in front of a bunch of third grade students, it's career day, and the kids were just curious what you do on a daily basis. And they said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
oh, okay. So first of all, I would tell them that I went on a long journey to find my purpose in life, because I always knew I had a purpose, but I didn't know what it was. This is how I would speak to those kids. And I would say, I imagine you don't know why you're here either. And I sure didn't. And but so my long journey included a lot of bad experiences from my childhood that ended up to be godsends because um, I had a breakdown in college from trying all these drugs and stuff, and then I was forced to see a psychiatrist, which was the best thing that ever happened to me because then I could sort out, like, who the hell am I? Am I who, you know, my parents think I am, my siblings, my classmates? I'm not like my real self isn't any of those. And so this was I am expert at turning bad experiences into things that are transformative, that propel me to a higher level. And then I once I found out who I really am, which was totally not who I thought I was, my whole life opened up and I was on a major search. And I did this wonderful 10-year search trying to find why I'm here. And I wrote a book about it, by the way, if you don't mind me
Oh,
telling your
please.
listening
No, that's
audience,
why we're
because
here. Of
it's
course.
really getting huge rave reviews. If you go on Amazon, you'll see. And I think
Yes.
the reason why it's getting such rave reviews is because it's touching some universal themes. And even though my life doesn't look like anybody else's life because of circumstances, the themes are universal. They're totally universal. Like, what am I here for? And who am I really? And aside from all the beliefs that other people have about me. Anyway, it's called From Mountains to Medicine, Scaling the Heights in Search of My Calling. So I this 10-year journey finally led me to medicine. And I thought, oh wow, I've finally found what I'm here for. And so I went through mainstream medicine and I stuck with it for 10 years. And then I said, this is not what my purpose in life is, just to give out pills, do lots of tests, not really get to know the patient, not deal with the underlying causes of their illness. I felt like a robot, and my soul became kind of dead. And it was all pharmaceutical driven. It didn't seem like real healing. And out of the 37 richest countries in the world, we were near the bottom in our health in chronic disease, and we had the most expensive health care in the world, and the second um, most expensive was Germany, which is way below us, and we had the poorest outcomes. And I just thought this is not for me. So I actually needed a disaster. That's what makes me change. I got um, exposed to some horrible toxins in this new building, pesticides and all kinds of things. It was just awful. And I genetically can't, I learned later, I can't clear these toxins as well. No one in the building was healthy, but I was the most badly affected because of my genetics. And so I left because I became so sensitive for a few years. You hear about these people who can't go anywhere. Well, then it turned out that all these former patients followed me to my home and they asked me to be their doctor. I said, I'm impaired. I'm injured. And they said, "Oh, we know about it, but can we come in?" And then pretty soon my home became a, a clinic where I immediately had too many patients. And eventually I could give them really good care because in order to heal myself, I studied environmental medicine, all the things that were not taught in medical school, all the important things in our modern times: what you eat, what you breathe, what you drink, what you put on your skin, what you wash your clothes with, what you clean your house with, what you build your house with, and what you breathe outside, what you put in your garden. And so these are people who came from all over the country. I never advertised, never. And they weren't getting the help they needed. And so actually, after I learned how to treat myself and get better, then I was treating all these people. In the beginning, all I had to do to offer them is my compassion and listening to them. And some were happy to pay me just to the fact that I listened to them because they'd say, no doctors ever really listened to me.
Yeah.
And they valued that even though I didn't have concrete stuff to give them. And eventually I became known all over the place because of what I do. And then I was nicknamed the health detective because my wealthy patients would go to all of these famous specialists and they couldn't help them. And they come to me, and in 10 minutes, I'd figure out what was wrong just by doing a timeline. When, okay, here's when you weren't, when you were feeling fine. And then here's where you weren't feeling fine. Something happened. Everything happens for a reason. What happens? And they usually say nothing. And then I keep asking. So this is a real case. This guy who is a businessman, very wealthy, been to so many specialists. I mean, paid hundreds of thousands of dollars and got nowhere. And so in 10 minutes, I asked him, okay, something happened. Did you travel? Did you change your diet? Did this, that, this? And then I said, well, did you change your home? Okay, so he moved into this house, and it turned out that the house, after deep questioning him, but this was all in 10 minutes, um, we realized he had mold in the house, and he was mold poisoned for the year he lived in that house in San Francisco that had all the water damage. And so I told him to move out. And after he moved out, because I wasn't going to treat him while he was in that building, that makes no sense. That's like a house that's burning down and you treat for burns while you're in there. No, that I said you have to get out and find a different place to live. He had a Sprinter van, so until he could find a place, he lived in a Sprinter van, and and then he followed my advice, and after a year, he said he'd never felt so good in his whole life. And
Wow.
then he asked me to be a consultant for a health-related product he was developing because he was so inspired about what happened to him that now he wanted to tell the world and do this and that for a business that would help people's health. And so I was the consultant for that. That's just one little story. In
Yeah.
fact, my fourth book is going to be how I figure out these problems. And people are going to say, oh, wow, I could have done that myself. Yes, you could. Yes, you could. So modern medicine makes us feel like children, like we can't figure out our own problems, and brings you great joy that you're good at it, and it's in service to others. What more can one want out of life?
Yeah.
It's just makes you feel so good.
Yeah, for sure. So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
I wanted to be Sir Edmund Hillary. He was the first person to climb Mount Everest, and why that? Because when my father, when the news came out in 1953, I was 5. No, I wasn't in the 3rd grade. Okay, but I still, in the 3rd grade, I wanted to be Sir Edmund Hillary because my father told me all about him and raved about him and talked about him as though he's some kind of hero. And so I thought, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So, but I ended up, I don't know if the recording caught this, I ended up later in life being the first American woman to climb the highest mountain in the Western Hemisphere, which is Aconcagua in Argentina at 23,000 feet.
Wow.
And I did a first ascent of a peak that's part of a larger mountain in Ecuador. And because I did a first ascent, they named the little peak after me. And because it was very dangerous. I think I must have been crazy to do it. And because it was a knife edge ridge. And if you go too far to the right, you 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 to your death, and too far to the left, you to your death too. And so I don't know what
That
possessed me,
that's
but
excellent. You're an adrenaline junkie probably, you know?
in those days,
Yeah.
not anymore, not
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah,
No, that's great. That's a great story. So I'm curious, in this life that you've led, what are you the proudest of?
my medical practice, I'm very proud because I treat my patients with my whole heart and soul and my brain, and I love my patients, and I have helped so many people who couldn't find any help or were mistreated, ridiculed, misdiagnosed. had horrible experience with mainstream, and so the fact that I've been able to help these people, I feel so happy. I mean, climbing the highest mountain, this and that, that's fine, but it doesn't bring you deep joy.
Yeah.
You know, you have a thrill for the moment, but this is for life. This is a
Yeah.
kind of joy that's not momentarily. It's real joy, and really feeling like I'm doing something that has meaning to me and to other people. I feel so lucky that I found my purpose, because when you're doing what your purpose is, it's like a guiding star. So even if you have bad experiences, like I had a bad accident, a snowboarder hit me, and so my eyes are damaged and in my brain, um, and so I went through hell, and then had brain surgery. It was total hell, but I did not close my practice because I knew that if I didn't continue seeing patients, I couldn't bear what I had to bear. But
Yeah.
having a purpose is a guiding star, and it helps you get through really bad times because you have your eye on your purpose.
Yeah. At the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, all of your readers, all of your patients, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I have many different sides, but what's happening as I age, I they're all sort of merging into one side, which is I'm I'm a very compassionate person. I can go really deep with people who suffer, and um, I can go to places that most people can't go, and I'm not afraid to go to the. A lot of doctors don't want to go deep with patients because they can't handle it. I can handle it.
Yeah.
I can go where the patient needs to go, and I'm proud that I don't pass judgment. I'm very proud of that. I will see even patients who have mental illness and are difficult. I still don't pass judgment on them, and I feel really good about that. So,
So if anyone wants to pick up your remarkable book and story, learn more about you, reach out, any of the good business, where can they go?
well, you can get the books on Amazon, or you can have your local bookstores order it. I had two memoirs, and there's the third one is almost done. It's about my trajectory that I sort of hinted to on today, and then the fourth book is the medical detective book. And so two memoirs are already written, and your viewers might really like the first memoir too. It's about my time 53 years ago on the Navajo reservation. I learned to speak Navajo, and the whole world opened up to me, a world that white people never see.
Yeah, I bet.
And and it's a very fast read. It's very engaging. Even my son read it and he said, "Mom, kids my age don't read." And so I said, "Why did you read it?" And he said, "Well, I was just going to read 2 pages." And then he said, "I couldn't stop. It's like being in a kayak in class 5 water and you
Yeah,
can't get out. And all of a
right.
sudden it's over in four
Yeah,
hours." So,
yeah.
but so both of those are on Amazon. So you can just either Google, I mean, search for my name and those books will come up, or search the title. And the first one is called Medicine and Miracles in the High Desert: My Life Among the Navajo People. And the second one is called From Mountains to Medicine: Scaling the Heights in Search of My Purpose. And they're all paperback, Kindle, and audio.
Excellent. Dr. Elliott, this has been great. Thank you so much for opening up. Thank you for your story. I love the fearlessness. I love it's been a great storyteller. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep doing great
Thank
work.
you.
Take care.
Thank you, Joe.
See
Bye.
ya.